We're back here on YAFFEE Live. It is a revolution in common sense. Now, don't forget, if you ever miss any of the show live, go check out the podcast. It's available on the website, WGOW.com, or any of your podcast outlets, or any of your smart devices as well. Joining me right now, as he does every Thursday, is Brandon Lewis. He is the founder and contributor to The Tennessee Conservative, which you can read at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
Man, I'm outstanding. Glad to be here to go through these hot news topics.
Well, I was about to say, even though the legislature is like not in session, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the state politically and just in general. And one story we definitely have to talk about, I talked about it earlier this week on the show, but Tennessee is seeking a federal waiver to exclude soda and sugary foods from SNAP benefits. Now, I asked people, I'm like, give me one reason why this is a bad idea. No one can give me a reason. It seems like common sense to me, but what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you who could give you a really good reason. Those would be the Coca-Cola lobbyists.
Yeah.
The Colonel Sanders is making his way up to the Capitol as they've exhumed his corpse because apparently fried chicken will be off the menu as well. So I can imagine that the folks that would be most upset are almost exclusively the people that are selling these food products to folks, and also, the ones who consume it indifferently. It always amazes me is if you always see the wheelchairs where people are in them, not the wheelchairs, the little scooter rounds at Walmart, and they're usually full of the biggest people, and they're almost always in the chip aisle. And it's like, okay, there's a correlation here between what's in the buggy and the fact that we can't get into the store and walk around on our own 2 feet. And so it's a huge epidemic. I mean, it's the leading cause of death. Really, is obesity. And of course, somebody may die of a heart attack, but the cause of it in America is almost all diabetes, and the rest of it stems from obesity. So I would love to see this go through. I think and this can be a little bit difficult for folks in rural areas, and I guess it would be hard to know where the cutoff point is. But another thing, I lived downtown in Chattanooga, and it was always crazy. YAFFEE, I would see some 6'7" man who's young, 20-something years old, who, very athletic on food stamps, but apparently very idle during the middle of the day. And then you would watch the same individuals who probably have the least amount of money using SNAP benefits at convenience stores. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, go somewhere your dollar goes a little further. But I think if we could find ways, to make sure that if we're giving away government benefits that Tennesseans have, worked real hard to provide for fellow citizens, 3 things should be in place. Number one is the person should not be employable, for really good reasons, not, all the many that people take advantage of the system. Number 2, that they can buy nutritious food. Number 3, preferably that they can buy it at places where they're not, paying 3, 5, 10 times what you would pay in a typical supermarket.
I got to say, I never thought about that aspect of it, but you're right, because you can use them at like your local gas station. A lot of times, if you're getting a soda out of there, it's more expensive than, say, getting it at a Dollar General or a Walmart or something. So but to me, even beyond like the health aspect, because you're exactly right. I mean, to me, it's like we should have a little bit of, we're getting rid of incentives to get off of welfare benefits. We're making it too easy and convenient and comfortable to be on welfare, where there was a time, yes, if you needed it, you could use it, but people didn't want to. Like now it's like there are people, they live comfortably on some of these benefits, and maybe that needs to change for an incentive purpose.
Well, it certainly does. As I've said before on the show, there are 2 ways you can make a man a slave. You can work him like hell and take away everything he earns, or you can give him everything he needs. And either of those 2 things end up in about the same place, and that is that the person has lost their autonomy and self-respect. Self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things, and when you just idle away your time, I think it's damaging to the spirit, it's damaging to the body and the mind, and we need to get more people off of these programs. And so often it's almost like government brags about the amount of people we help, and the question is, like, could they help themselves? And so I believe probably 2 or 3 decades ago, that pendulum swung way past leaving people behind and toward the other end of really taking money from hardworking Tennesseans for folks that could just as easily go out and get a job and work for themselves.
Well, yeah, the best government benefit is a job. Like, right? Like, that's the best benefit for a person, I mean, is a job. Way better than being on welfare. And you're right, the Democrat Party brags. I mean, they did it with Medicaid. Oh, my gosh. Look how many people we have on Medicaid now, and they're celebrating it. And it's like, that's not a good thing. Don't we want people, wouldn't we prefer them on private insurance?
Absolutely. I mean, you would think. And so, but, with dollars come votes. And, and it's, if all you have to do is if you perceive that the only thing you have to do is walk into a room and spend 5 minutes pulling a lever and you can get a year's worth of benefits to not have to work at all, I mean, that's a pretty good trade-off, dollar for dollar. And so I'm hoping that we see some kind of welfare reform in the not too distant future. I think the last time there was anything meaningful was under Bill Clinton, and with the Republican-controlled House with Newt Gingrich, and I can't remember I think it was Tip O'Neill, I don't remember. But at any rate, we've not seen welfare reform in any significant way in a number of years, and it's time that happens.
Well, talking about reform once again, why don't we talk about reform to the census? Because one of the stories you guys have at the site is Trump's call for a new census excluding illegal aliens, and it could have a notable impact on Tennessee.
Yeah, it could. We have somewhere between 1.8 and 2.25 illegal 2% of illegal aliens that we know of, right? So that's somewhere low end 128, which we know it's not that, high end 162. So it doesn't count any of the gotaways, which we know that millions got away under Biden. So you could probably assume that that number's 250,000 or something in the state of Tennessee, and so that could affect us to some degree. But one thing that was interesting, I just pulled up using Grok on X, is looking at the various states that have the highest percentage of illegal aliens. California's one. It'd be great to lose seats there in Congress. But then Texas is number 2 at 5.7, not so good. Nevada, that would be helpful. New Jersey, New York, Arizona, Maryland, Hawaii. So almost all of these states, with the exception of Texas and Florida, and a lot of that just has to do with the proximity of where they are, other than those, it really is almost all these are all left-leaning states. You get into Georgia, and it's the margins are pretty thin. And then I also looked at it relative to how they voted as a percentage in the last presidential race. So I think the net benefit, particularly in the House and Senate, or not Senate because that won't change, but the House would be to our favor. But then there are some different things related to how funding comes in based upon the census for various federal programs. So a little bit of that has to be taken into account. But the bottom line is this: if you're not here legally, you should not be counted in the census. I mean, when we do a census here in the United States, we don't decide to just go arbitrarily count a town in Poland because those aren't our citizens, right? But if people come here illegally, let's count them as if they're citizens. And so that was a ploy by the previous administration to bolster numbers in sanctuary cities and places like that. So hopefully we can, get the number right. It's a shame to have to wastefully spend all that money and annoy the public in general to get this information once again. But I think it's the proper thing to do.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be an issue in the courts. I mean, Trump did try to at least ask a citizenship question. I mean, it's all he wanted to do in his first term, and couldn't even get that done. But yeah, it just kind of like you said, common sense. The whole purpose of the census is for apportionment. And then when you have a bunch of illegal immigrants counted in that, they're getting representation, even though they shouldn't be here. I mean, that should upset the average American. Speaking of illegal immigration, you guys have an interesting story here about West Tennessee Township that has approved a contract to reopen closed prison and use it as a ICE detention center. And I saw that citizens voted on it and they supported it.
Well, it sounds like the big thing is the Mason Township and ICE are wanting to turn a prison facility in the area to an ICE detention center. And it seems, from what I can gather, and I did not watch the entire meeting, I gather it got a little heated, but it wasn't really heated regarding should we turn this facility over for an ICE detention center. People seem to be, mainly okay with that. The issue centered around core civic being a little bit unpopular, like they have been rather unpopular. They've got kind of a semi-monopoly. There have been many stories over the years that have been printed about backroom deals and no-bid contracts and things of that nature. So the brand itself has suffered a little bit. But, when you're in charge of running a prison, that's a rough gig all the way around. But when very few people do it and you get your hands in the pockets of the politician, putting money in, not taking it out, like you can get a hold on a legislature, and that organization has done it in many, and they're Brentwood based, and so the most of the contention around it seemed to be relative to the company providing the services, and a little bit less about the idea itself.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I was curious why there was some pushback, especially in that area, but it's not ICE, it's the core civic aspect of it, which is it definitely makes a little bit more sense. Now, the last story I wanted to talk about with you, it's something I've been talking about since the start of the show, and I have to admit, I don't really know what your take is on this. I don't think we've ever, maybe we have, and I just don't remember, but Trump's consideration of marijuana reclassification could lead to legalization in Tennessee. I'm against that. I think having this drug more available to people is going to damage our society. No one's been able to convince me a good reason to do this, but what do you think?
So the first thing is the classification, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think they're really two separate issues. The first thing is the classification. Like right now, for example, it's in the same classification as, crack and heroin.
Yeah.
Well, is it crack and heroin? Probably not. Probably not. I went to college. I've been around a bunch of crazy people. I've been around crackheads. I've been around people that smoke a lot of marijuana. And generally speaking, like one crowd acts differently than the other. However, you can see the hollowed out eyes in people that abuse it. I went down to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and came in a little early and found myself like I was just wide awake. So I just went to this little bar by the hotel and got something to eat. And there's a young man sitting beside me talking to me. And I think everybody in Mississippi is issued with a vape box because I've never seen as many. I mean, these big, huge, and like they're just in their hand 24/7. And like you could tell, like the guy had been doing that forever, and his brain was not. You could tell he probably was once a good-looking young man, probably pretty bright. Did not seem to have those characteristics any longer, and he even had a sister there that you could tell didn't do any of that stuff. And the difference between the two was just like night and day. And I have heard from many of our blue state refugees that are conservative moving here, and they are far more adamant that it not be legalized for retail distribution than anybody else you'll talk to, because they watched it. Oh, okay, it's not that big a deal. And it's like, every city you go to, it just smells like pot. It just leads to other things. And so from the libertarian streak in me is like, well, if people want to do stuff, I mean, let them do it. Look, it's not, if we were really going to crack down on anything that would probably have a better effect on society, you'd have, food police running around would probably save more lives than anything. But, people don't like that, obviously. And so everybody's got their vices. But, Cameron Sexton said that he would only consider legalization of the drug if it was reclassified. But for all intents and purposes, we had marijuana legalization for about 4 years. Now they've cut down the percentage of it. And I thought that was a very weird drama that played out. They said, oh, we didn't know. I mean, yes, people are going in these stores to buy this stuff that does not make them high because of the medical benefits. Just take a look at the people going in and out. You know that that's not the case. So the fact that they walked that forward, and then, for 4 years, people invested millions and millions of dollars of leases and buildings and fixtures and inventory, and then they say, okay, we were confused. I don't know that they really were. They were probably, when the political fallout started happening, they got back in the lane. So I don't know what is going to happen with this. I do know it's been a while. I'd have to go back and find it. In closing on this, when we post a Twitter poll, I'm just been amazed at how often it matches the polls that you pay thousands of dollars for to do statewide polls. And what I have found is the GOP primary voter in Tennessee is pretty homogeneous. Like there's not a whole lot of difference in Republicans in Tennessee. And so it was split far more than I ever thought. It was like almost a third are like completely legal. These are Republicans. I think like 25% or so was like medical use only. And then there's another percentage like partially legal, and then shouldn't be legalized at all was like a third. So there were more people that wanted some form of legalization, whether it's all the way or partial or medical. And there was only really a third that were like, And so it's one of those issues like school choice where you've got people that have different views on it that are a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I get tons of people that talk about it, different aspects every time I talk about it, on the text line, calling in and everything. Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Read it, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
Talk to you soon, sir.